Hi, everybody. Mike Bloom here, getting you ready for our penultimate Australian Survivor exit interview podcast. Believe it or not, we are only 3 episodes away from the entire ending of this whole shindig. But we had another fantastic 3 episode batch. There was a lot to get into, both on the podcast and a lot to get into in my interviews with this week's three boots. Two people who you could certainly argue made questionable decisions that directly led to their ouster, and one person whose boot was the result perhaps of a lot of questionable decisions being made by some of their closest allies. You'll be listening to my interviews with Cameron, Brooke, and Keely. Obviously, three very different paths in the game, though I guess both of them spent respective time on the top and on the bottom, scrapping from a certain perspective, but certainly very, very big characters in their own right, especially Brooke and Keely, currently tied, actually, I believe, for the Chizzy lead, had a major impact on this season. Still a little shocked that we are not going to see either one of them in the final four here, but that's not to give Cam the short end of the stick, because if we know anything about this man, is that he is a talker, and he did not underwhelm us in the conversation. He was happy to expound upon a lot of the relationships we didn't see, a lot of his tougher moments in the game, a lot of his triumphs. And of course, I got to get into everything that Brooke and Keely were involved in, from their days together on Baron 1.0 to their separate but very different runs in, the swap, to coming back together and becoming part of the Boomerangs or Kaput, before Brooke turns on Simon and Keely turns on Brooke, and everyone basically except for Jackson turns on Keely at a certain point. We get into that and so much more. Of course, I mentioned the recap podcast beforehand, and these are some ones you certainly do not want to miss out on, because again, with the gameplay perhaps getting even more questionable by the day in terms of independent decisions that are being made, people in the hunt to seek out the illustrious big move, it took a lot of discussion on our part to try to figure out the rationale behind it and whether or not it was good or bad rationale. So I got the Sunday episode podcast with Chappelle, the Monday episode podcast with Puya, and I was joined by the great Noonan from Brains vs. Brawn 2 to break down the most recent episode and set up our final week, believe it or not, of Australian Survivor Redemption. So we've only got a few episodes left. So if you are not on the train at this point, consider this the last station. WeKnowGlobal.com to make sure you're subscribed to everything we've got going on, because suffice it to say, I think there's going to be quite a bit more chatter going on once the actual $500,000 check has been given away. I don't want to stop talking about the season anytime soon. I don't know if you all, it's been just this delicious morsel of absolute chaos. So make sure you do not miss a second of everything we've got going on. Just as a reminder, again, I brought this up as well in the Noonan podcast, but for those of you who do not know, we do have 3 episodes left, even though it is a final 4. I believe the schedule is that Sunday is going to be our final 4 episode. Monday is going to be strictly the final 3, as far as I am aware. So we're going to get the final immunity challenge and the final person voted out. And then we have a supersized late night Tuesday finale where we'll get the final tribal council, the winner reveal, and excitedly, the return of the reunion. Given the general candor of this cast, perhaps a lack of filter, I think a lot of stuff is going to come out in that reunion. So you don't want to miss it, or any of the coverage we have going on, including in this very podcast. I will not tarry any further here. Please enjoy my interviews with Cameron, Brooke, and Keely. Cameron, I am still days later a little perplexed as to why we're talking right now. I want to go into your headspace and how perplexed you were by this vote. So you expected a couple of votes coming your way. We saw that as much during the tribal council, but what was your reaction as you saw Cameron vote after Cameron vote come in?
Man, well, I don't know how to feel. It was a mixture of emotions. I think like a part of me was just so shocked. I felt like I'd done so much to prove to my alliance that I was gonna stay loyal to them. So I didn't expect them to turn their back on me. Um, but then there was a part of me that was like a little bit flattered in a way. I was like, are you not all just seeing me as a threat at this point? Is that why you're getting me out? And then yeah, soon after it was the complete opposite when I realized it's just because I won't shut my mouth. So yeah, it stopped being a compliment.
Yeah, let's get into this because this was something
Mm,
that we didn't really experience until the last couple of episodes. In fact, you were rather quiet in the edit from our
mm,
perspective until lately. So, was
yeah.
this something that was new? Were you aware of this perception that
Nah.
people were getting a little, peeved with how talkative you were?
Nah, I mean that's the story of my life, like I'm always a talkative person. And when I was out there, I was very, very talkative. Like in most of the challenges, I was quite talkative, even if it wasn't very evident on camera at times. If you were to rewatch episodes, you will hear my voice in the background. They just kind of were trying to mute it, trying to keep it quiet. But yeah, I was talking constantly. And so it wasn't anything new. Um I think honestly, it was more the reward that amplified all of that. The fact that I'd gone on a reward and I didn't take Loz, and she kind of felt a bit left out twice in a row. Obviously, she was dying for some food, she was dying for a chance to clean up. And I think that was the seed that kind of then, you know, when someone does you wrong and then all of a sudden everything they do becomes annoying. I feel like that was more of what it was, where it's like before they were like, "Oh, he's so funny. I love that he talks," and then by then it was like, "Oh my gosh, if he doesn't shut up, I'm gonna lose my mind." So I think the reward had a lot to do with that.
All right, well, let's get into this reward because, yeah, there
Mm.
was a lot of talk about not only the choices you made, but the choices you didn't make. So let's sort of, put all the logic aside that you talked about at Tribal Council. What
Yeah.
were the reasons that you brought Sally and Keely with you? Were these spur of the moment decisions? Did you think about
No.
doing these before the challenge even?
Yeah, I was thinking about it during the challenge. Like, so every reward, I won pretty much every reward except for the shop reward at the start, and then like won the cake reward but didn't get to eat the cake. But every other reward from then on, I won. And Sally had like none. She'd won nothing. She even lost in the bluffing challenge. Like Sally had a rough run. She won a car, yeah, and I know that. But she couldn't see the car on those days. So it's like the car's coming in a couple months. Whereas right now, you're starving, you're hungry, you're tired. All of those things are still true. So I thought Sally was a no-brainer for me. She was working with me. And then I wanted to take Loz as well. But my thought was if I take two of my alliance members and only leave one left, Caleb, with the rest of them, they can run off, leave him, go find idols, and it might be hard to make that shot. We won't know who's the person to go for. So yeah, I thought it was smart to bring Keely. And plus me and Keely, we weren't the best of friends. So I thought maybe it was a chance to get a little bit closer.
So then,
Yeah.
when you try to explain yourself at tribal council, you try to bring up this, oh, the two of you haven't been on the rewards as much. Oh wait, I remember Keely, you were actually there at the reward with me. That was a bit of a mistake. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
was that a purposeful on your part, or was this sort of like again talking for the sake of talking? Because it seemed like both
yeah.
Laws and Caleb were offended, and Keely was also offended that you said it was a mistake.
Nah, she wasn't really offended, man. She's just a good actress, that girl. I think it was more like that. It was genuine. There was truth to that. Like I was trying to be nice, and that's what I was saying. Like, there's a bit of me that I surprised myself with the way that I played and how loyal I was, and how much I kind of had my heart on my sleeve. Like I wasn't. I wanted to be someone that was like real cutthroat, and then when I was out there, it's like playing with people's livelihoods. And I just wanted to be someone that made the days easier for people because I knew how much people were struggling. So um yeah, I tried to do something nice for Keely, and I was trying to portray to people that I was quite nice and I was doing things with a clean heart. And then I kind of stumbled over my words. I'm like, oh gosh, like actually that's not fully the truth. So yeah, I think Loz and Caleb, they were annoyed immediately from just not going. And Keely, Killer Keely, man, she'll take any opportunity she has to excel in the game. And if it looks cool, even better for her. Like the fact I took her on the reward kind of adds a bit to it. Her voting me out as well. So
Well,
yeah,
let's get into a couple of these relationships, and yeah, let's stick on Laws because
yeah.
it's interesting, at the beginning of the merge, it was shown that the two of you were close. We'll obviously get into, to
Yeah.
flip or not to flip your conundrum. You said, okay, I don't make this flip unless Laws does. So going into the reward at this point, talk to me about your dynamic because you two seem to be on opposite sides of that, or, basically both tribes in the pre-merge there.
But opposite, but nah, man, me and Loz were so close. I think she just was closer with Simon and decided to make choices with Simon. But I really liked her as a person, very much so. And I felt a lot of trust in her. It was weird. I think something about her, maybe like being a mom and like even a single mom, like I just had an affinity towards her. Like I felt like yeah, there was always that connection, and she was always real honest with me, except for a few votes, obviously. And I just put so much trust in her. And she was also very apologetic. Like when she had done me wrong, she was also very like she seemed quite sad that she had made mistakes by me. So I really trusted her. And then when the Lottie vote had happened, I was just devastated. Like obviously, firstly the Asha vote, but she explained her reasoning. I could kind of understand it, but then the Lottie vote, I was just like, why? Like, why on earth would you do that? And uh, from that point on, once Rich got eliminated from the game, from that point, it was like clear that she was, I guess, running out of options a little bit, and the people that she has been putting her trust with didn't have her best interests at heart, and then it was like obvious that we were close because I'd never done her wrong. I'd never voted against what she wanted or what she told me that she wanted. I'd never put votes her way early on in our first tribe when she was the like split vote or she was the person people were going for. I did everything I could to save her. So yeah, I was always right by her.
Did you get the sense when you came back from the reward that she was treating you differently at all? Did she tell you how angry
Nah.
she was about your decision?
And like she told me, but we just laughed about it. Like,
Mhm.
I explained why I did what I did, and she seemed forgiveful and she seemed like she understood. But obviously, that one cut deep. Because when I told her, I mean, when I spoke to her, like we laughed, and she really seemed sincere in the fact that she forgave me. But really, in the back of her head, she's like, "Yeah, you can tell that story walking." And she wrote my name and sent me packing. So yeah, but that's the
Well,
game.
what about Caleb? Because this is not a relationship
Yeah.
by comparison that we really saw anything of. But as you mentioned, he
Mm.
seemed just as ticked off as Laws about not
Yeah.
getting picked for this reward. So was there some sort of dynamic going on between the two of you?
I think he just was really close with Loz and wanted her to have that. So I think that annoyed him a lot. And yeah, that was crazy. I can't lie. Like watching that episode was hilarious for me. Like my vote off was so funny. Like everything around it. It was just a funny, funny episode. But I was shocked at the things he was saying about me. I can't lie. Like me and Caleb were really close, and we have been since. So when I was watching, I was like, "Ah, you. That's how you were moving. You're really saying them things about me." Um, but at the same time that long without food and your family and everything, it brings out the worst in people. And I think something is, I'm about to say it's small, but it's not even small. Like if you imagine that was the dirtiest challenge of all of them as well. You're filled with mud, you got mud everywhere, you're smelling, it's raining. It's very easy to get annoyed. And you add that with someone who's on a sugar high, just smash their face with all different kinds of pastries. And I'm not shutting my mouth. Like I can see how that would really, really rile people up.
Well, one of the reasons why it seems like Caleb also was souring on you is because you decide, despite, Brooke and Keely and Jackson still being in the game, that you're talking about Caleb of, okay, we need to take care of Sally at some point, that she might flip,
Yeah.
she's going to be a problem. Talk to me about why you decided to bring her name up there, and did you get the sense that Caleb was reacting the way that he was in the moment?
Um, yeah, I feel like me and Caleb had a real chat about that, and it was like once we get one of them, Sally's probably the person. When we start turning inwards, Sally's probably the person that we want out. And I don't know, he reassured me. I felt like he was on board with that, to be honest. Earlier on in that day, we actually went to Keely, Jackson, and Brooke and said we want Sally out, and we made it clear to each other, myself and Caleb, that that wasn't something we were really gonna do. So I think um he used like a half truth. Like he knew that I wasn't really targeting Sally, but I told him that I wanted to be cautious of her, and he used that to, like kind of, yeah, tell her a half truth and get the ball rolling on me. So yeah, credit to him. I mean, everyone voted my name in the end, but I feel like Caleb or Loz probably deserve the credit for that.
I want to rewind as we get into this period of the end of the pre-merge and beginning of the post-merge, where yeah, Cameron,
Yeah,
you are losing people left and right. You
come on, man.
lose Asha, you lose Lottie, you lose Rich. So talk to me
That's
about how
flow.
you talk to me about how you pivoted there. What relationships
Yeah.
were you seeking out? Were you just changing your approach to the game overall based on that?
Yeah. So, man, it's comical because at that point I wanted to have like the people at the bottom stay strong. So I wanted Blanche with me. And then I got rid of her. So don't even ask me. But like the newbies, like I wanted Blanche, I want Sally, Caleb, Loz, Ben, Jackson, all of us at that point to just have like an uprising. My honest intention was just wipe the floor clean with all them returnees and then let's have a free for all. Let's see who's really about it from us lot because clearly they're outplaying us. Clearly their experience is shining through. So at that point, I wanted to, it's weird. Like I feel like I keep saying this, but I wanted to go really hard. And then when I lost people that I really cared about, time after time, there was a part of me that was just like, I couldn't help but show my loyalty now. Like I wanted to get the people that had done me wrong. That's all I wanted. And I think I had a bit of tunnel vision at that point. Like I was very focused on just getting Simon or getting Mark or coming after Brooke or Keely. And I wasn't really open to exploring a lot of different options. Um, which was really unfortunate, man. I mean, like yeah, so many things could have gone different, but when Lottie went and like Cashflow had wrote her name, Loza wrote her name, I was like, what is going on in this world? Like, why on earth are we teaming up with these people? I remember seeing Rich on the beach and I was like to him, bro, I know Simon helped you get here, but please don't trust that man. He just got rid of Asha. He threw Lottie's name out to me to see if I would buy it. And I said, no way. And I'm like, Lottie and him were close out. So I'm like, who's to say he won't go for you, Rich? So in this next vote, which I think Ben or Jackson was the plan, I'm like, we need to take the shot on one of them or let's just do it on Simon. And he was like, oh, you love playing big, Cam. You love playing big. And he was adamant he needed to get on the right side of the first vote after merge because he's like a stats man. He
Right.
loves the game, man. He knows everything about the game. And he's like, you need to be on the right side of the first vote. And he told me this, and then he went and voted against me. I was like, this boy Richardson. So he tried to make it up for me, and ultimately that was his demise, because no one split the vote and Rich went home. And then yeah, after that, things got real tough for me. Like when Asha went, it was like just a big wake up call and the game stopped being fun. It stopped being like, a holiday and it started to be like, man, we need to switch on. Then Lottie and I was livid. And then once Rich went, it was just, man, it just got so tough. And I feel like that wasn't showcased very well, how difficult it got after that, you know?
Mm.
Like it was real. It was real. It wasn't, yeah, it didn't feel like a game.
Well, one of those people that put you in that situation you mentioned before is Simon.
Mm,
There was one point,
mm.
after even the Osher vote that you're like, I will never trust a thing that man
Ah,
says again. You two end up sticking around in the game for quite some time after that. So talk to me
yeah.
about this relationship, especially during, we'll get into this, the period when like he's coming to you to try to flip over to the other side. Were you just done with him after that Osher vote?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much, man. Like I was done with him, and it's weird, man. It's like the opposite of rose tinted glasses, just like some poo stained glasses. Like I'm looking at him, and everything he said is like just fake. No matter how much he told me to believe in him or trust in him or this is gonna be good for my game, I was too stubborn at that point. Like I'd felt hurt and I'd felt betrayed too many times. That it was like I'm not. I feel like I'm disrespecting Asha. I'm disrespecting Rich. I'm disrespecting Lottie if I even consider to work with you. You know what I mean? Um. So yeah, but I mean, he's a legend. He's a legend, and he played an amazing game. I can't fault. I mean, I probably could fault it a little bit, but I mean, I can't really hate on him too much. But when I was in it, I was so against him. Like I really wanted him out.
Well,
Yeah.
as I mentioned before, a couple times we got a little bit of a showcase where you were in this situation where the returnees were coming to you specifically to flip, and you
Mm,
were going back and forth. You never really took the bait either time.
yeah.
Were you ever close to actually flipping and joining the returnees, or were you fine with, sticking with the underdogs, the newbies, no matter what?
Mm. I guess my main focus was to stick with the newbies. There was a part of me that considered it, like, um, slightly, just because, especially with Ben, like, I'd gone for him before. He got Aisha, he got Lottie. A part of me did consider it, but it was very temporary. Like, my main focus was to go for the returnees. So it crossed my mind, but it was just too hard for me to just agree to work with Simon and make that commitment, because it's funny, like anyone that was close with me, it felt like they went, but it was actually anyone that got too close to Simon. Like, it was really like, if you weren't a returnee and you got close to Simon, you were just his puppet, and eventually you're just gonna get chopped off. Because he would rather sacrifice you than turn in on the returnees. So yeah, I didn't really consider it. Like, it crossed my mind, but nah, it wasn't gonna happen.
Well, one person who did consider it and took the deal was
Yeah.
Jackson. I want to ask about this dynamic because
Mm.
we might not remember all the way back in the very first episode. You are like, my
Yeah.
redemption is not being a sheep, and you try to stir
Yeah.
things up against Jackson. And
Good.
he ends up flipping over. Obviously, as part of the many people who vote you out. So talk to me about your dynamic, because it seemed like the two of you were never truly on the same page, no matter what,
Yeah,
throughout the
yeah,
season.
yeah. It's interesting, man. I said I didn't want to be a sheep, and then I become one. How crazy is that? Um, but also with Jackson, man, we I don't know, like, partly we should have been close, but it just didn't work like that. Like, he's a wrestler, I'm a fighter. It's like he does the acting, I do the real. So we were in there, and just something about it just was rubbing me the wrong way, like, um, and the further we got, it's weird, man. Like, I feel like you could probably say the same thing about me as I'm about to say about him, but he didn't feel threatening. Like,
Mhm.
the further we got, he felt like someone that wasn't really too much of a threat to me personally. So he stopped being my focus. It was like, um, yeah. But I guess in the end, him flipping on Ben, like, it seems to be working for him. So yeah. I don't even know fully what your question was, man. Sorry, I kind
No,
of
no,
went
no.
off on a
Listen, I
tangent.
love the answer regardless. You at one
Okay,
point during
cool.
your boot episode, you called yourself the ideas man of the underdog. Talk to me more about that. What was sort of the role you played within that
Brother.
group?
Oh man, I reckon I had so many ideas. Like, it's weird. I feel like in my life, people listen to me a lot. Like, my job, I talk to young people all across Australia, and like, I do a lot of things where people kind of follow my lead. I've been in my job for ages. I'm a leader at what I do. And I had nothing but ideas out there, but it felt as though my ideas weren't taken serious. Like, people didn't really listen to them. But especially once Simon was gone, obviously, like, I felt so certain on how we're gonna move forward and what we should do. And ultimately, people weren't buying what I was selling. I got.
Well, like that's your catchphrase. The last thing I want to ask is the fact that you came in with, I think, one of the biggest literal pieces of redemption, right? Which is that you had
Mm,
this losing fighting record. You wanted to get yourself
mm.
a big win, a belt to boot. Obviously, it wasn't the biggest win, but did you feel like you won or redeemed yourself at all throughout your time in the game, despite all the trials and tribulations you faced?
Yeah, 100%, man. I said I wanted to continue to fight. I wanted to show that I had grit and show that I could fight. And that's the side that I feel like people don't get to see as much, because it's such a strategic game, is the social aspects and just how difficult it is to be in those environments with minimal food and bad sleep and interesting weather conditions and all these social dynamics. And I stayed positive consistently. Like, every day I wake up with a smile. Every day I told people I was blessed, and I lived a great life, and I was grateful for every opportunity. And that is the thing that I left with the most amount of pride with. Because it was like, it was very tough. And I've seen people get angry. I've seen people's worst sides come out. And there's not many people that can say that they've seen like too much of a negative side of me, even on my worst days. So yeah, I was very proud of that. In terms of actual fighting, you know, I kind of went out, I guess, the same way I always go out. Um, like, I've only ever lost decisions, and yeah, they're always
This was quite
unanimous.
the decision made
So
against you.
exactly, man, it was a decision. Everyone was on board, just like the judges normally are. So it felt comfortable because I've been there before. Yeah.
Well, listen, you put a smile on my face today, man. I'm so
Appreciate
happy that I
you.
got the opportunity to open up about this because, yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, as I mentioned, we did not get to see a lot of these certain perspectives of your game, aspects of your game. So I really appreciate you getting the
Mm,
opportunity to open up to me about all this. It
yeah.
gives me even more appreciation for,
What a
what was
man.
obviously not a very easy path for you to get to seven, but
Mm.
seven is no laughing matter. It takes a lot, especially
Ah,
given everything you went through, everything you lost to get to that
Mike,
point. It's a
you're
commendation in of itself.
wonderful. You're a wonderful man, Mark. I love your energy. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. Yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, you too, Cameron. Thank you so much. Completely
No
feel
worries, man.
likewise. All the best to you and yours. Have a good one,
Yes,
man.
sir. Take care.
Bye bye. Brooke, I cannot believe it has come to this. You live by not going to rocks, you die by not going to rocks, I suppose.
Absolutely. Oh, I know it's so sad, but it's also kind of nice to have it all wrap up now and yeah, just watch the others kind of take control and see what happens.
I actually want to start with what happened after it all wrapped up. You mentioned this during a very vulnerable moment on the beach. Did you get the chance to call your daughter after you were
Oh,
voted
I
out on her birthday?
did. I did. I made it just in time. I got to FaceTime her and speak to her after her birthday dinner with her family. So, oh my God, I was bawling my eyes out. Like an absolute mess. And she was very confused. I like the poor thing probably didn't know what had happened to me. And just to see me pop up on her phone again, it was, yeah, I'm sure it was a bit of a shock.
Oh, incredible to hear. Well, let's talk about perhaps a bit of a shock that may or may not have come your way here. Because, listen, you're whispering at tribal council yet again. You're like, hey, let's go to Rock. Let's try this thing. So, how surprised were you when you didn't even get to that tie vote? Were you shocked that Keely ended up flipping on you?
No, it wasn't a shock at all. I
Okay.
knew Keely had told me
Oh,
that she was voting for me. Yeah. We had a really good bond, Keely and and I would have done the same thing if I was in her position. We were really the only threats to each other's game left in there. We loved each other to bits, but Keely could have beaten me and I could have beaten Keely. So it made sense. But it was also just this really funny moment of her and I on the beach, just hugging me, saying, "Are you voting for me?" And she's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Could you not?" It was just like us hugging, knowing we were, in a lot of trouble, and it was special.
well, I'm curious because we actually do see you not in this episode, but the previous one talk about on your end. Like, I'm not sure if I can take Keely to the end.
Yes.
So, what was sort of your perspective on your alliance? Were you trying to get rid of her sooner rather than later had you survived this vote?
It was definitely playing on my mind now at this point that we're getting close to the end. And out of everyone here, I personally, I thought I could beat anyone else, but Keely would give me a run for my money. So taking her there because of friendship, like the old me would have done it. The new me who was doing it for my family and my daughter, I couldn't have done it.
All right, well, let's rewind 1 week when once again it felt like we were facing rocks, and you make this move to vote out Simon. You say, all right, this was sort of my biggest impediment between
Yep.
me and winning out. It's turned out that actually was the person who you were closest to. But talk to me more about this decision and how do you look back on it now, considering everything that happened afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought it would help me improve my chances of winning challenges. I just didn't know what challenges were coming up. It was, of course, the ones that I suck at. Season one, I went home on one of those ones with the rope. All Stars, I went home doing something similar. So it's just not my forte. And yeah, Keely, the little beast, was keeping that hidden. So that was a bit of a bummer. But do I regret it? No, because I know Simon was coming for me soon. I'd heard it from Jackson, who was getting close to Simon, and Simon was giving him a little bit of information that was coming straight to me. So I didn't think I could trust Simon after he voted for me when he got strong armed by Ben and Jackson. And I didn't want to lose Jackson or Keely because they were the only two people that I could trust in the game. And there was a good chance of them going. So I had to take my shot. Did I think I'd win a few more challenges? Yes, I thought it would give me a little bit more of a leg up. But yeah, unfortunately, that's not how it played out.
You mentioned Jackson. I am curious about again these sort of like de facto member of Kaput that was brought in at the last
Yes.
minute here because you said that you want to keep in him and Keely because you trusted them. I mean, this was a guy who did vote for you a couple of times, ends up
Yes.
flipping courtesy of Simon to vote out Ben. So what was your dynamic like? Did you feel like you were on the same page as him by the time you left?
Yeah, I did. And I think yes, he was gunning for me a lot and we saw a lot of that, but we also didn't see so Ben wanted me gone quite a lot, but Jackson would always try to push it onto someone else. He was like protecting me and I was doing the same with him. And it worked pretty well for us. It saved me a few times. And after he made that Ben move, it was like he really wanted to play. And I could tell how much he was leaning towards Keely and I rather than the underdog side. And it just felt like I could trust him. And he didn't write my name down. He was very loyal to me. He was happy to speak up and stand up for me at tribal council. And he proved to be a really good ally. So whether or not it was just the fact he had pissed off the other side and he had to come with us, I don't know. But I didn't have many options out there. And Jackson was someone that I had a really good bond with.
Well, let's talk about one option you had, or should I say a half option? So
Yes.
you find this half idol, and we see last episode, Caleb sits you down, and it seems like from our perspective, he is able to ferret that information out of you that you have the half idol. So before we get into the reveal of Tribal Council, I want to get your perspective on
Yeah.
this conversation. Were you realizing in the moment that you had sort of made this slip up, and how were you trying to backtrack as it was going on?
Well, it wasn't really a slip up to me because I needed to know who had the idol. Like I wanted to know who had it. So, and there was no way I was going to get it off Caleb or Sally, but Caleb without having a conversation about it. So I would have loved to have been the one to catch him out or catch Sally out with it. But there was no way of me getting it unless I was going to go through someone's bag and steal it. So, without a conversation, there wouldn't have been any point in the half idol, which it was a bad time in the game to find a half idol unless Keely or Jackson had the other half.
So when you get to tribal council, you decide to pull out this half idol, removing any doubt that might have existed. Because I know you try to tell Caleb, like, maybe I have a full one. It might just be a half truth, quite literally. So was this done out of any sense from you of like, I'm already going, so this is like a fun thing to do on the way out? Were you trying to bluff or reveal the truth for some reason to out Caleb?
Is this in the cam vote or my
During the
final
cam vote, yeah.
cam vote? Yeah. So at this point, Cameron was so sure that I had a full idol. And it was awesome because he was happy to spread that across the tribe to his allies. And everyone was like, oh, she's got a full idol and a half idol. So it was kind of just, yeah, I can't really remember my logic behind it, but they all thought I had another full idol and I didn't cop one vote. So it was really, really good. And the best part about the half idol was I got to hold it and show Cam the idol within the packaging, and I was holding the half side, so he thought I had a full idol. He was giving it a feel, could feel the chain, and he was set. He was sure it was a full one, and it definitely helped get me through that vote at least.
So then why, I don't know if you had the sense that Kim was going, why did you then decide to remove all doubt and say, like, I only have this half idol, by the way, and Caleb has the other half?
Well, I didn't tell them that I didn't have the full idol. So they still thought I had the full idol. But I just wanted to throw Caleb under the bus because he was pissing me off.
Well, let's talk about what got you to this point of desperation, Brooke. Because I would say, even up when the swap happens, you found yourself on the bottom, fighting to stay in each and every one of these 40 days. Even before we get to that, I'm curious because you were coming in with the most survivor under your belt of these 4 returnees. But it seemed like, as you mentioned at the merge at one point, you played this very, like, almost under the radar, solid, stealthy game. Did that surprise you at all, considering the reputation you had coming in?
I was surprised that it worked as well as it did. And I definitely went in there being like, I'm going to downplay this. I'm going to talk up my being a mom. I'm not going to talk about being a personal trainer and fitness being my whole life. Like I changed who I was a little bit at the start. And I took a step back when it came to votes and let Mark be the front man. And I think Mark being there helped me so much. He was the best shield. And we had kind of like a similar path we wanted to go. We were close with this, like we're both close with Faith and Keely. We wanted to protect them. We had kind of enemies in the same side. And Mark was happy to be bold and be out there and show everyone it was his move and doing all this stuff. So he was the perfect shield for me.
So then Shield gets taken away
My
when this
shield
swap
was
happens. I mean, you end up, surrounding yourself with quite the entourage in Beauty
yeah.
and the Beast. But talk to me a bit more about that, because obviously this will not be the last time you're scrapping. Certainly not the last time that you will save yourself with an idol.
Yes.
But how much did you feel that you had to pivot your own perspective on the game when you wind up being in such a corner on this new Baron?
Oh, I remember the first day after Tribe Swap, just sitting there in my interviews being like, I am screwed. Like, there's nothing, like, I am absolutely, this couldn't have gone worse. I've gone with Ben and Blanche, who I was friendly with Ben, but we weren't close allies. And Blanche wanted me gone from probably day one. So I felt like I had nobody. And it was, yeah, it was really hard. And I remember saying, I can either go home or go crazy. And I did. I just went crazy. And I went for the week when I found my idol and I had an idol in my bag. I was just walking around camp, having baths at the well when everyone thought I was idol hunting, pretending that I was going home and like collecting shells for my daughter and really like playing it up that I was going home. But I knew I was safe, which was so satisfying because everyone was so confident that I was gone. Um, yeah, it was very poetic.
How did Beauty and the Beast come into the picture here? Are you aware of like when you were brought in and by whom?
Simon loves night chats. So he would always squeeze my toes in the middle of the night to get up and have a chat. So like that was his
Hell
like
of a
little
signal.
he did it so much that I started sleepwalking while I was out there, and I'd wake up halfway down the beach thinking I'm chatting with Simon. And it wasn't. I was just dreaming. It like really messed with my head. But he would take me through at nighttime, and Jackson and I had a good connection at this point, but we weren't as solid as we were at the end. Um, and I didn't have any other choice but to kind of put my trust in this group of people. But Loz and I never felt like Loz was really with me. So that's why I played my idol that night as anyway. Like I still wasn't that confident in that alliance, and that I would be able to survive it. So it was helpful, but definitely not a full, well-trusted alliance for me.
On the note of idols, we have obviously now heard everything come out about what happened with this pre-swap idol that obviously you had to
Yes,
play it or would have been taken from you.
yes.
Little
What about
confirmed
that?
as much. That was a fun few days on the internet, I'm sure for
Oh,
you. But
wasn't it? I loved that.
talk to me more about, did you ever debate, obviously you wanted to use it or else it would have been taken from you, but did you ever debate using it on anybody else to engender trust at that Johnson Tribal Council?
Yeah, I did. There, but the only people that I who really needed it was Don or Johnson, and I didn't want to use it on John because John and I didn't have a really strong bond or anything. I freaking loved Johnson as a person, but I wanted him gone. And the reason which we didn't see is because he knew about my alliance with Lyndall. He's the one that saw
Yeah.
me swapping it, and busted me on day one. He heard me talking to Lyndall. So he knew that, and I was worried come tribe swap that he would tell everyone that we've got this connection, which I thought could have been something that really helped our game down the track because that bonded Lyndall, Loz, and I if Lyndall was still there. So I had to get Johnson out. So yeah, it did definitely felt like a waste, but I mean, a few people knew that I had the idol; it had to be used. So just wanted to get it out of there.
Around that point, you say something really interesting at Tribal Council where you're like, you are not used to a season where plans change on the fly as quick as they did, which again is wild to think about coming from the most seasoned veteran. Though, if you look back at, 2016 and 2020, maybe not the most electric seasons in terms of
Yeah.
gameplay. So, talk to me a bit more about that. What was it like for you, again, in your third season of Australian Survivor, to get adjusted to a brand new way of basically everyone playing?
It was intense. It was so intense, but so awesome at the same time. And I think a lot of it has to do with Mark kind of paving the way for the gameplay early on and showing the returnees what it's like to kind of be big and bold and make big moves. But it's just like everyone wanted to be, doing something crazy all the time. And it was just wild going in me kind of having a plan in my head, having, speaking in my interviews who I think is going home and how it's going. And then one thing will happen at tribal council, it would get completely changed, and we would walk out with someone else completely different going home. So it was very tricky to kind of get used to, but it also made for such an exciting game.
Well, one of those very, very key moments came up during this Blanche tribal council with the fake idol and the real idol. So I want to get your perspective on
Yeah.
this. Was this a plan that you and Keely had spoken through in the order that you presented it, or was this a little bit more like on the fly, I'm just going to choose to pull this out now, and Keely, you take your cue whenever?
We had a little bit of a plan, but it just kind of flowed beautifully. That no part of the plan involved Keely playing her idol for me. That never came up in conversation. That was like a complete shock to me. But we went in being like, okay, if we're feeling safe and people are going to do what they're going to do, like what they've promised us they'll do. I think it was voting Caleb. Then we'll keep it for later. But if we get any inkling that we're on our own, we're going for it. And it kind of went really nice. Like we're kind of tapping each other's leg underneath, like now's the time, and like you go, and kind of giving each other a head up.
You had this like blanket that you were sharing, so it was a very easy.
Yes.
You didn't have to squeeze her toes to let her know what to speak.
Exactly. No toe squeezes needed, but it was great. And I hadn't seen the counterfeit idol in its full form yet. I didn't know how long the chain was. So it was a bit tricky because I put it on and it just kept going. And I'm like, oh God. So I tucked it in really quickly. And then, I mean, in hindsight, Keely, we probably shouldn't have got Keely to wear hers because it made people kind of compare the two and see which one was fake and which one was real. So we could have probably kept that hidden a little bit longer. But it all just worked so well. And it was so cool to kind of see someone else go home, not Keely or myself.
Did you get the sense that the tides were turning as the evening was going along, or was it only when the votes were coming in that you're like, oh, we actually did pull this off?
We didn't know, until once Keely put her idol, played her idol for me, then my heart just sunk, being like, Keely's going home and it's going to be all my fault. But it wasn't until literally like the final one or two votes had been read that we actually realized we had done it. And you can see our faces. We're just like, oh my God, we pulled it off. And to see Blanche go, I was sorry to see Blanche go because it was never meant to be Blanche. But also she wasn't an ally. She wanted me gone. She wanted Keely gone. So it was a really positive result for us.
What is so interesting is, again, compared to your other two seasons when people were in the minority, maybe it was not necessarily the most positive mood at camp. What's so interesting on this season is like when you're on the outs, when you're the number one threat on the beach, like you're still having these cheeky conversations with people. But talk to me about this rapport. What was it like to kind of have these relationships with Caleb, with Laws, with Sally, with Cameron, with the express knowledge of like, oh, but they're absolutely going to vote for me. Anything they tell me, I'm going to literally laugh in their face about.
Yeah, it was really hard because I wanted to enjoy myself out there and have friends and make good connections and stuff. But it was much harder when people really didn't want you there and they didn't want to play with you. And I definitely know it was all gameplay and it's not personal, but it was hard and lonely at times as well. But I still I just didn't want to quit. And I would just constantly try to find ways to find ins, to find cracks, to build bonds over anything. I was trying to bond with Loz over being mums, and Caleb, because Caleb and I like similar things. We like the outdoors and animals. And like I was just trying to clutch onto anything I could, just be like, guys, I'm not a returnee. I'm just a mum, just a girl that likes that. Anyway, it was definitely tricky. But I do think my relationships and having time for everyone definitely helped dodge a few votes.
Interesting. Tell me more about that. Any like specific votes?
Yeah, I mean, the Cameron vote definitely was a shock to me, but I put in a lot of groundwork with Loz at that point, which I think paid off. And I mean, I had a lot of time with Caleb and Loz overnight without interruption. So I was planting the seeds of, I made up some stories that I saw Cam and Keely talking overnight, and I think they're in a secret alliance, and just giving all this secret made up knowledge to Loz to try to bond and to put a little bit of doubt in her mind. But it kind of paid off.
So at tribal council, you said a couple times, banking on your own personal experience, like listen, you guys need to have something to claim in the end. If you're trying to claim things that aren't yours, I've been there before. I've heard that story.
Yeah.
How much of these were like verifiable claims on your part versus selling a story? You know, as you're transitioning to being a jury member, were you telling them essentially the truth, encouraging them, don't just make a move to benefit me, like make a move to make an impression in the game?
Yeah, a bit of both. I mean, for the most part, it was me trying to save myself. That was always me trying to save myself. But there was so much truth to it because at one point there was 8 of them who were trying to make this big move that they could claim. But if you're all claiming it and you're all hoping to take each other to the end, who can really claim it? So I was trying to make that point that you kind of got to differentiate your game from the rest of your alliance if you want to win. And yeah, I stand by that. I think that's something that they hopefully will learn from and shake things up a little bit so we can have a showdown at the end.
In your final words, you talked about, you know, obviously your initial redemption coming in to win the game, but this sort of secondary redemption you found. And yeah, it wasn't really pointed out the fact that you were returning to the place where this all kicked off a decade ago with 23-year-old Brooke. So I'm curious, was there a particular moment when you sort of came to this discovery of what that redemption was, where you probably had this sense memory of like, wow, look at how similar and how different I've become in the past decade?
Yeah, I think it was the vote where Cameron went home because I at that point I was pretty confident I was gone as well. Like I was hoping that maybe the plan would work,
And
but it
seven
made
in
me kind of
Samoa,
reminisce on
it goes
everything.
synonymous
And
with you, yeah.
yeah, yeah, it must be maybe that like subconsciously that was why. But I kept thinking about like the whole time I was like, okay, I'm so upset. I want to be with my daughter. I want to be with my family. And that was always why I was tearing up. But then it got to this point where I was tearing up because I was saying goodbye to the 23-year-old me and the survivor version of me. And yeah, I got so emotional speaking to camera. And it was kind of like I was sad to be leaving it all behind, but also so happy and so grateful for what it's done for me and how it's shaped my life. Like it's shaped me career wise. Like I had no interest in fitness when I first started playing Survivor. I was working in a corporate job and then I left loving fitness. So I started studying fitness and then All Stars was, you know, a big bang. And then my partner owned a restaurant and he asked me to come in and promote it on Instagram. And so I met him and then had my daughter. So everything good in my life has kind of come from this show. And yeah, it was just like a big grateful moment and a big realization that kind of my redemption was how much I've changed as a person, me being comfortable with being emotional and being a different version of me, but still being that strong, resilient person at the same time. So yeah, I felt redeemed and I went in thinking my redemption was to win, but I think it was more than that.
I do want to point out one of the last things you do, which is, you know, regard David as a host. I'm so
Yeah.
curious from your perspective, considering obviously the history you had. What was it like to be so firmly, you know, in this game, but then to look across on a challenger at Tribal Council and see someone you played alongside? Did that feeling ever go away at any point?
It was weird at the start. It was definitely weird on day one because he just felt like he should have been with me on that side. But as soon as I saw him start talking and just the love he has and the understanding of the game and the ability to kind of make it so exciting but not take things away from the players was just it was awesome. It was awesome to see and I was so proud of him and I could see whenever I made a move he was proud of me and it was just like it was really nice. It was just like having a, you know, a really good friend there that you wanted to impress and you wanted to do good things so they can give you like a thumbs up and it made it even more special. So I'm glad if this is my last season that it was with Dave.
Well, let's talk about that because listen, there's been a number of returnees that have come through. Harry, Simon have all basically been like, "Yep, I'm done, 3 and out here." Is that the case for you? Was this your swan song on Australian Survivor, or do you have that itch to come back again?
I don't think I have much left to redeem except for winning. And I think if I did play again, it's going to be even harder to get close to the end. Like I've been sixth, what was I, seventh, fourth, and sixth. And I think people would be stupid to let me get close to that again. So I think if I did play, it would have to be a long time down the track.
All right. Well, regardless, I'm so happy that we got this time on the
Yes,
track with you, Brooke, because I mean it was such a different game. I have waxed profound about you throughout this entire season. I think you just have such a natural skill set, but I think you even surprised yourself probably with what you were able to put on display. You've certainly played on the bottom before, but I think the different things you were able to try and mostly succeed and sometimes put yourself further in the corner but get out of it, it was such an entertaining part of the past couple of weeks. And I think that, as you mentioned before, I do think those moments of you at the Survivor Cinema, you talking about your daughter's birthday, like what I love about these seasons and getting people like you to return is an ability to check in on simultaneously how much you have changed as a person, but like how Brooke the Survivor player has kind of still maintained that stasis delightfully.
Yeah.
So I know that obviously you did not get like the capital R redemption, but it brings me so much joy that you got to leave with your head held high after expending 9, let alone 10 lives probably in this game, and getting to hear all your perspective about it now just gives me even more joy at the 40 days we got from you and the 132 days we've gotten from you over the past 10 years.
Thank you, Mike. That's so nice.
Of course. Well, I will let you get back to everything, but I cannot wait to see what happens from here. Cannot wait. You know your way around a jury question, so I can't wait to see what you bring to that final
Ooh,
tribal
yes.
council.
Yeah, I've had my experience on the jury, so I'll whip out something good for you.
Well, thank you. All the best to you and the family, and thank you so much again, Brooke. This was
Thank
really
you,
a great
Mike.
time. You have a great day.
You too. See ya.
Bye. All right, Keely, here we are. You were possibly one half idol away from talking with me next week. But how are you feeling right now? Did those wounds get reopened again, watching it all back from this more third person perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. They do, Mike. The wounds, I don't know if the wounds ever heal either. The returnees, they were out there for redemption, and those redemption wounds, they stay open.
Well, let's talk about how those wounds were caused in the first place here, because Sally pulls you to the side at Tribal Council, and you're able to finally have this misconnection of like, I have an idol half, you have an idol half. So, given your sort of expectations, what were the chances you thought of her actually going through and playing the idol on you? Or was it not a surprise
Yeah.
whatsoever that she does what she does?
Look, I thought chances were high, Mike. Here we go. This is two half idols coming together, making something really quite powerful, which I think is quite spectacular in the game of Survivor. Finding an idol is so hard. Finding two halves and putting them together is, that is a huge moment. And I kind of thought like the whole world would break apart in that moment as well. And so it was really devastating not seeing that idol live its life. It wanted to live, it wanted to be played. I obviously wanted it to be played for me. But if it couldn't be played for me, I thought maybe play it to cause some doubt or a debt or some distrust or something. I was devastated to see it kind of reduced down to a friendship necklace.
Well, you said in your final words that you did not have any final thoughts for Sally, but let's try to verbalize some thoughts right now. What were your feelings towards her as you were leaving the game, considering what she had just done to you as of late?
Oh, I was devastated. I really was, because Sally and I had spent every single day and night together.
Yeah, even
we
on
went
Redemption
to Redemption
Beach.
Beach. Yes. We had a little poncho party on Redemption Beach as well, and it was really quite delightful. So I thought that Sally's sentiment of that would have prevailed and she would play the idol for me. So I was devastated.
Well, let's rewind one round, and maybe the reason why you're talking with me today is you had the necklace. There was a possibility that once again we could have reached a rock scenario, but it did not happen once more as you decided to vote against Brooke. So talk me through the logic of this move. Was this something that you made on the fly? Was this something you had been thinking about doing for a while?
Yeah, it wasn't a move that was made on the fly. And it was, we were at 6. There's only so many numbers you can crunch at this point, Mike. But I am not naive to the fact that this is Brooke Jowett. She is a true challenge beast, and she actually has the capability of winning every single challenge from here, and she will take me out. As much as I would love to sit with Brooke at the end and ride this thing out, we both know that we are not taking each other to the end. And I did think that, give Brooke the chance. I am kaput, as we would say. And so I thought, I'm going to take Brooke out now. I'm hoping that this really changes the game. I'm hoping it shows to the other side that I am willing to work with them and things can look different now that you guys have fulfilled your mission. Get all returnees out of the game. Let's try something different now.
So how do you look back on that move now? Obviously, very results oriented, but also considering whether or not that alliance of three broke apart as you expected.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it now, I have to sit here and go, that was the best move to make at the time with the information that I had. I really thought that I had built some good relationships on the other side, and I thought people might play a little bit differently. I was very wrong. Would Rocks have been better? Maybe it would have got me one more day in the game. But I truly believe that, once Brooke had that necklace back, I was out. I was gone.
So when you talk about people playing a bit more unexpectedly than you thought when you made that move, talk to me more about that. Who were sort of making moves or not making moves that you thought would or would not at that time?
I was really hoping that at this time I could actually be used as a number and have a bit of a night off from hustling so hard. I thought that Sally and Loz could really take advantage of this opportunity here and, drive the bus, as they say. But I'm also willing to work with Caleb as well. Whatever Caleb wants to do, I'm down for that. I'm down for anything at this point, Mike. I just wanted to see, a little bit of fire, keep the game going. Let's do something else. We're at 5. It's still really exciting. I mean, it's still exciting to watch the rest of the season play out too.
Well, let's rewind all the way back to when that fire was initially ignited here, Keely, because obviously you come alive in these early days and especially on that swap tribe, and we see you really entrenched with Faith. So talk to me more about how this bond formed and what this dynamic was like that we got to see so deliciously over the course of the pre-merge.
Faith and I connected on Barren Beach, a couple of days into the game. We were so close. We just would stay up giggling and, coming up with these grand master plans that maybe one day we will execute. Maybe we won't. And we just had so much fun together. She was absolutely my number one out there, and I loved playing with her. She had a wicked sense of humor. So do I, and that really helped as well. When you're not eating and not sleeping, sometimes all you have is a good laugh at the end of the day, and Faith gave me that.
But Mark ultimately had the last laugh over Faith. So let's talk about that, because I think a lot of us expected you to go full scorched earth on him once, he ends up turning on the head office. But it seems like the two of you were fairly hunky-dory, at least from our perspective. So talk to me a bit more about your reaction to Faith's blindside. And were you truly just easy to get on with Mark, or was there a little bit of trepidation there from then on out?
Oh, I was devastated. Losing Faith. I couldn't believe it, especially because, I was the sitting little wet dark from Redemption Beach, and she's just gone and thrown this challenge, which has ultimately led to her being voted off the island. So it was heartbreaking to lose her. But I also know that I have to play with the people that are left. I don't have Faith anymore, but I have Mark. And so I am going to, forget this ever happened and keep riding this wave with Mark for as long as I possibly can. But I never forgot, and I always kind of kept one eye out for Mark. He's so good at this game, Mike. So you've always got to keep an eye on him.
Well, talk to me more about this relationship with Mark, because I think you or he say at one point that you're sort of like engaged in these small power struggles where you even say in response to this Faith blindside, like, I'm not angry or devastated. I just want to figure out how to one-up Mark next.
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Well, talk to me more about this dynamic, because this is sort of like the third side of the head office triangle that we didn't get a lot of information about.
Yeah, look, Mark and I were really close, even on Barren. The cat vote was a lot of fun with Mark, kind of flipping that in tribal together with Brooke and Faith. So I loved working with him. I also loved the competition that he brought out in me as well. You know, Mark is exceptional at this game. He has such a good mind for it, and he's crafting these amazing votes at tribal council. And so it was a tit for tat relationship. I didn't want him out right away because I loved playing that game with Mark. But I also know I cannot sit with Mark at the end. He is phenomenal. And I was also always quite worried after Faith that is that what's going to happen to me? That is terrifying.
So when the merge starts hitting, you, and it's been said both on the island and off, you were considered this like adopted returnee, right? You were part of this group that will eventually become Boomerang, Kaput, whatever you want to call that. But talk to me more about that. Were you surprised to sort of be as indoctrinated in with the returnees as you were?
Yeah, I mean a little bit, but Mike, I was also a little bit outcast as well. You know, head office did it dominated, and there was a lot of cross mat chat, and so the other side was very aware of that too. You know, they told me in the Redemption Beach challenge that they are coming for me, and I was not naive to that fact at all, and so I really had to stick with the returnees, and the returnees were these, you know, 3 gorgeous, beautiful shields for me, but they were also a source of a lot of knowledge as well. They taught me a lot about the game.
Yeah, so I'm curious, you know, as these returnees become the topic du jour, will for the rest of the post-merge, like, are you trying to entertain conversations with the other newbies despite the fact that there seems to be this line in the sand? What was it like trying to negotiate some of those relationships on, quote, the other side?
Yeah, it was tough. You know, they were so attached to their mission, which was to eliminate all returnees. So I really had to get on board with eliminating the returnees or stick with the returnees and kind of, you know, kick our way out of it if we could. So I was still having lots of conversations with everybody, as you do. And, you know, I am not opposed to taking out the returnees. I just like to do it at different points in the game is all. I'd like to get a little bit further before I drop one of my beautiful shields.
Well, to that point, let's get into this Blanche Tribal Council because that is a key example of that. So, I mean, the first thing I have to get into here as we're dissecting this is at what point in the process did you sort of jump on the idea of like, all right, let's use this real one and this fake one? Did you have any mind to be like, if I just let Brooke go here, I have an idol that basically nobody knows about that I can sit on and play when I'm in danger?
Yeah, I you know, on the beach, I was starting to think about, will the idol and the fake idol come out tonight? I really hope not. I was really hoping that we had built some real relationships that we could count on in that tribal council and get through without having to cause such chaos. But as soon as we walked in there, you could tell that they just were not on our side. And so it was actually in the moment of tribal council that I thought, it's Idlegate time, baby. Like, let's rock and roll. And Don's poncho served as the perfect cover to pass that fake idol over to Brooke. And everything played out intuitively, Mike. There was no plan to the madness.
It's only fitting that after you made that tribal council live to get Don out, that his poncho would serve as the basis to create another live tribal council on your behalf.
Yeah, the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah.
Well, talk to me a bit more about your perspective during all of that. You know, as you're slowly bringing out these idols, what was your sense of things changing around you, if they were changing around you?
Oh, Mike, they were changing around me. I am telling you, people are up and down. You know, Brooke and I had pretty much stayed seated. I don't think anyone was interested in talking to us. But once that fake idol came out, I think that got a lot of people talking, a lot of people moving. And I could feel that shift move over to me. I always knew that I was the split vote. And, you know, I remember David saying, you know, he was kind of getting towards, let's go and vote now. And I thought, I've got to bring out my real idol. We need to change this again and cause more confusion. And I'm so glad that I did, because it caused them to put in a backup plan in another split vote, and that was a perfect split vote in my opinion because it saved me, and that's what really mattered in my opinion.
Yeah, and the key part of that plan, though, was you doing something incredibly gutsy, which is you were
Yeah,
holding on to an idol. You knew you
I
were the split
was.
vote, but you read
Yeah.
the room correctly and you played it on Brooke and you saved both of yourselves in the process. Talk me through that methodology. Was that something you were thinking when you stood up? Was it an assessment you made in the moment? Did anyone give away the fact that Brooke was getting most of the votes?
You know what? I would have loved if someone could have told me. That would have been great. No, I did have a pretty good read on the tribe. I will admit that. And that mission to eliminate the returnees, it was strong.
Hmm.
And it was so strong that I know people want to write that name down and they want to be the person responsible for sending that returnee home. So I was pretty confident that pretty much everyone has probably dumped on Brooke. I was looking at that urn and I was thinking there is one or two Keely names in there, but there is not enough to send her home tonight. I don't know who's in there, but it isn't me. And so it was in that moment that I thought, I'm going to play this for Brooke. You know, it's gutsy, but high risk gets you a pretty high reward after that.
Now, someone who does end up voting for Brooke as well is the other returnee in the game in Simon. And you and he had this interesting relationship, right? Where it seems like the two of you immediately connect on this Lottie vote, but you call him out at the end of that tribal council. Brooke ends up flipping on him as surprising you a couple of rounds from now. So talk to me a bit about your dynamic. Were you sort of in the Brooke camp of being leery of him once he had that vote against her?
Look, I loved working with Simon. He is really good at this game. He has
Hmm.
a really good strategic mind, and he's actually quite well does quite well conversationally. I remember being part of some of the conversations he had with the newbies, and I thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense. That's a great idea. And so I was so disappointed that Simon didn't vote with us that night and then he put one on Brooke. But I can also see it from Simon's perspective as well. And Brooke's a challenge beast, and so is Simon. It makes sense for Simon to take her out and join the boys, join on to another group and hopefully see himself through a couple more days.
So Brooke is left vulnerable the next vote, and confoundingly, from her perspective, she is fine, and Cameron gets voted out. Now, the show makes it seem like Brooke and Jackson were kind of in the dark about this, and you were more in the know. So I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Were there specific reasons as to why this newbie majority decided to turn on Cameron all of a sudden? What was communicated to you?
Yeah, look, from what I understood, or from what I read of the tribe actually, is a lot of them were quite emotional players. And Loz and Caleb were so upset that Cameron did not take them to the reward. And I think they were baffled that he took me, of all
Hmm.
people. And that really caused a wedge there. And so it was, a little bit of like emotional retaliation. And I believed it, and it ended up being the truth in the end. And look, I was down to vote off Cameron as well. I was really keen for a sleep in the next day without being woken up. And so I'll jump on board the Cameron train.
Yeah, talk more about that. It's getting mentioned a few times. And again, we were not experiencing the Cameron alarm clock, but talk to me more
Yeah,
about the apparent chattiness he had around camp.
he is so chatty, Cameron, and I actually love him for it. I just don't love him for it when I'm still sleeping. So yeah, he's a chatty boy. You hear some of it on the mat. He is full of energy and he has one volume and it is loud. It is very, very loud.
Well, I want to finish up here by looking back on your own game here, Keely, because I'm not sure if
Mm.
you pay attention to the pulse of what the fandom is all about, but they have become so enamored with you, especially in this latter stretch as you are fighting your way out from the bottom. And again, it's pretty wild that you were a first-time player, and the promos, everyone on the beach was like, "Oh, she's one of the returnees." Did that surprise you at all? How did it feel to be regarded as such a large presence on that island?
Oh, I mean, it's incredible because I didn't really believe it at the time when I was playing the game, Mike. And so to watch it back and see that I did have such a presence on the game and the storytelling of this season, I'm really proud that. I thought that, the returnees were just gassing me up. But they were telling the truth, and I've loved watching it back. I'm so, so proud. There are a few things that I have not done yet though. And so I would love to tick those things off if ever given the opportunity.
On that note, if you get another crack at that list, what is the biggest thing you would change between Redemption and whenever a second season would come?
The biggest thing that I would change about my own game style is what you mean? Yeah. Oh, look, I'm not sure. It's really hard when you're out there because you aren't eating or sleeping, and you kind of restore to your factory settings, I suppose. And I would love to invest more into the social side of the game in terms of really letting people into who I am as a person beyond just the strategic gameplay that I had. That is something that's really difficult out there because it is such a human game, and you're kind of asked to build these deep emotional bonds to use them as weapons later. And so I didn't let a whole lot of people in. So maybe I would change that going forward, but it also means I open my heart up to some big heartbreaks.
Well, listen, I'm happy that you were able to open up to us today. I mean, I joined the throng in just really commending you on such an incredible season, such an incredible performance. I know that you talked about being the criminal out there, but it was a crime we didn't get to see you in the end game. But regardless, the impact that you had on this season is monumental. I know you said that Mark kicks things off with the Cat Tribal Council, but like what you did with the Dawn Tribal Council, head office, kaput, whatever you were a part of, Keely, it was so magnetic to watch you. And you were able to, again, pull off things that these people who have played 2, 3, 4 times were not able to do in their entire Survivor careers. I think that speaks to a skill set that you have as both a player and a person that should be really commended. So I wanted to thank you, and it really heartens me to know how satisfied you feel. Obviously, not completely satisfied to the point where you won't come back, but I think that's how you feel heartened by your journey, because it was really incredible to watch you sort of come to prominence in the season proper, and to unfortunately go out in the way that you did, of course, is tragic, but the ride that we got to experience, and I'm sure you got to as well, is second to none. So thank you so much for not only everything you brought to the screen, but everything you brought in our conversation today.
Thank you so much, Mike. It was, the best experience that I've ever had. It's like the best, most awful job. But thank you so much for talking with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I have loved listening to you as well.
Oh my God.
I am not a huge Survivor fan, but I have become like weirdly addicted to these podcasts. So thank you.
Well, happy to feed that addiction. Thank you so much for listening. Honestly, that means the world. And listen, you are in contention.
You've got a great read on the game yourself. It's incredible.
Oh my God, that means the world to me. Thank you, Keely. Yeah. Oh my God, you've got my vote. I'm with Team Kaput right now. Yeah, you know how to work them.
Amazing. Welcome to head office.
Well, I'll let you get back to the head office and everything else you have going on, Keely. But I cannot wait to see what happens with you next. It's going to be so great no matter what it is. So thank you so much again, Keely. This was such a great time.
Oh, thanks, Mike.
Take care. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.